processes are still like your first term in the field, you learn a language. That's the way our system's built. But that doesn't make any sense if the person that's there is only considering it for the one time that they're there, and then if all they do is just language learning, they come back and decide they don't want to go back, then you just not wasted time, but it's not the system is not the correct system anymore. So I think younger people are much more like relation heavy now. Like it's not as much I gotta go there and be intentional about the gospel like it is, but it's different. It looks different. It's not as like evangelism vocally driven. It's more like incarnational, like living life on life with people. Which again, I personally like that. But there's been some subtle shifts in that way. And I think people also see that there's been damage over time that the old way has done. Like Americans have kind of come in and just Americanized the culture and people that, they haven't really truly experience the gospel. We've just created an American church overseas. And so that's.
Or their family like imploded because it was just unhealthy and they burn out.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of that I've just experienced in my life. They've seen people be faithful, but at what cost to their children. There's a lot of missionary kids that have been really burned,
right?
Either by boarding schools they went to, or just their experience of how their parents suffered.
What else? All right, you guys want to get in it? All right. If you want to turn to scripture, you can go to Jeremiah chapter 9 in just a second. Been talking about this for a while. We're going to start something new for the foreseeable future. We're going to take these big things that's happening in culture and try to just voice it on a Sunday, give name to it, give some opportunity to talk it out. The main thing would be, I think the main thing that's on the table for Christians right now is looking at stuff. It sounds like I'm not saying anything unique at this point, but there's things that's happening in the culture, and the question is, how do I think about this in a biblical mindset, but also like in a Jesus ethic, which is, I think, it should be the litmus test for us. And I don't know if you guys ever seen it. It's on Instagram all the time. At least it's on my Instagram all the time. People say there's a difference between being biblical and being Christ-like. Like there's a verse in Psalms about smashing babies' heads and all that. It's like, that's biblical. And then there's something about being Christ-like. So just because something is in the Bible doesn't mean that that's something to follow. Does that make sense? And that should not be a big state. That's not like a heretical statement. It's because I'm talking about smashing babies' heads against the curbs or something, All I'm trying to say is, when it comes to looking at the stuff that's happening in culture, the question primarily should be, how do we follow Jesus in this moment? Or how would Jesus think about these things? Or wear the WWJD bracelet? What would Jesus be doing here? So the idea would be to take the conversations or the things that's happening in our culture and try to give some space to it, and do so trying to process it as in, how do we follow this? How do we follow Jesus in this manner? And there's a lot happening. I mean, that bill was just passed, and there's a lot of questions about that bill, and before or after or during, there's like images of them praying during the bill or passing the bill, or after the bill. I can't remember now. And it's like, you got to be curious about it. Like, is this, like, what's happening here? And there's videos circulating about like is this the end times? Because there's a war that's going on in the Middle East, and if Russia gets involved, that's going to align with some prophecy that's in Daniel about the North and the South coming together against Israel. And anyways, are we in the end times? And then to be, if you follow like a Charlie Kirk kind of mindset, like to be Christian means to be a Christian nationalist. Like you're supposed to be a patriot, and to be American is the same thing as being Christian, and being Christian means to be pro America. It's like stuff that's happening all the time. We talk about immigration, we talk about racism, we talk about capitalism and corporate greed and all that stuff. Anyways, all I'm trying to say is a lot's happening, and a lot of it's really heavy. And so, like, what is Mosaic? Mosaic is not just going to be a space of we're trying to swing a pendulum and give new ways of new things to think, or we're trying to be a space where you can work out things in real time with others and possibly find disagreement, but we still link arm in arm and keep going together. So it's a long way around the barn. Just say we're starting something new, and it's that. Does that sound good? Cool. All I want to do today, before we get into more specifics, so the future, I'd like to take specific ideas and just the whole Sunday, like that's what we're talking about, is voicing those things. And whoever's leading can come up with scripture, a few principles or points or whatever. But the main thing would be just us working it out in real time. Before we do that, I was just going to read to you some of my diary, some things that I've been trying to work on lately, with some principles I'm trying to hold on to. So, truth be told, I'm quoting Isaiah. It's Isaiah 6. It's the KJV version where he says, "I'm undone." I feel undone when it comes to these principles today, because like they'll teach you in like preaching classes and teaching classes that you're not supposed to do anything that's new or novel to you. Don't ever talk about anything that's new or novel. Make sure it's normal and routine in you before you preach it. It's a good principle. But I'm not doing that today. So everything I'm telling you today is new and novel in my life, and I'm trying my best to hold on to it. So I'm completely undone by the things I'm telling you today. And so I'm trying to hold on to it. So all I'm trying to say is I'm speaking to myself. And again, I don't have good questions because I'm just telling you a bunch of stuff. But if you guys have thoughts and comments and questions, feel free to just voice and we'll make it work. Sound good? Cool. Let me read you a story first before we begin, called The Bell and the Bird. A young monk was given the job of ringing a great bell at a monastery each morning. It was massive, made of bronze, and when it rang, the entire valley echoed with its sound. He took pride in it. Every morning, he would climb the tower and pull the rope hard, letting the bell's voice thunder through the hills. It was bold, it was unmissable, but over time, fewer monks gathered in the courtyard. Some stopped coming altogether. The young monk worried that he was doing something wrong, so he pulled harder and harder and louder until one day the old abbot came to him and said, "Son, the bell is not broken, but you're ringing it like a warning, not an invitation." That evening, the young monk climbed the tower again, but this time, before ringing the bell, he listened. And just below him, in the nearby tree, a bird was singing. A small, unnoticed song. It reminded him that not all truth needs to be shouted. Sometimes it just needs to be heard. So we're going to be talking about things that are weighty and that are probably worth shouting about. But before we begin, I think we should learn from the bird, learn from the monk, take a pause, learn how to listen well, learn how to speak well, and not lose our voice. So you could think about this as like what happens when the bell gets too loud. Richard Rohr has a book out that we're going to be using as like a foundation. It's called The Tears of Things, and I'm towards the end of it now. It's really, really good. It's well worth the read. But he's talking about prophets, some of the Hebrew prophets. He's said it 1,000 times over, but in the book he's talking about being on the edge of the inside. And that's often how we feel. It's how I feel when it comes to Christianity, like not fully in the center, affirming everything, but also not fully on the outside, like completely opposed to everything. I've jokingly said I'm Christian adjacent to people, or I'm tangentially Christian, because it's like that feels like the most honest thing I can say sometimes, because there's so much that bears the name Christian that's happening in the world that I'm completely opposed to. There's a lot of beliefs that are titled Christian that I'm completely opposed to. But, like we've said 1,000 times, like I can't let go of Jesus. Like that's like the critique of evangelicalism to people like myself is like, well, you can't have one without the other. Like it's Jesus' bride is the church and all that stuff. But that's just where I'm at now. It's like I can't let go of Jesus. Like there's the wisdom of Jesus and him and his person, everything he said and did and was, and much of Christian history. I'm not trying to throw everything away. Still like allures me and is like ringing to my bones. Some centrality of transcendence. I can't let everything go. That's not the topic of today, but I'm trying to say is the whole edge of the inside thing I think is pertinent. But cause that's what he's talking about with the prophets, the Hebrew prophets in the scriptures in the center of the Bible. Really, they were basically on the edge of the inside. They were railing against the machine, raging against the machine, like throwing stones, but they were throwing stones from the inside. You guys know the show The Bear? Is anybody watching The Bear besides us? Man,
Is it good?
it's incredible.
I've seen a lot of it.
You have?
Yeah.
You seen it?
I've seen the new season.
So me and Taylor are currently in the new season. Yes, it's like all I'm talking about and thinking about right now. Okay, well, Stranger Things is also incredible. You guys should for sure watch The Bear. It is well worth it. It is intense. It is incredibly intense, but it's well worth it for lots of reasons. But specifically today, I was thinking about for today, I was thinking about the show. You guys know it. It's like a cultural thing too. But whenever someone says something like a confession or a need, you respond by saying "heard." Have you guys ever encountered this? They do it in the show. So like if someone's like confessing something, like instead of like even responding, you just say like "heard," like I hear you. It's a minimalist, empathetic way of like looking at someone saying, "I see you, I hear you, I'm with you," all that. I honor your needs in your confession, because that's like what we all need, in that moment. Like we were watching an episode last night, and one guy was just kind of venting, and the main guy in the show looked at him and said "heard," and like that's all he said, and it felt poetic. It felt beautiful. Like he didn't need to say anything else. He just needed to say like "I hear you," because that's what we all want, is to be heard. But think about now and what we're talking about is like, what is the truth of the matter? Well, if you have the truth but no one's hearing you, what's the point of having the truth? I'm not trying to find a spot there, but I'm just saying like you may have the objective, absolute truth in the world, but if you're an ass about it, no one's going to listen to you. That's like the thing I'm trying to say. So think about from what Richard Rohr is saying, a prophet is someone who's not necessarily in the center affirming everything, but they're also not completely on the outside throwing rocks. They're on the edge of the inside. If you're too inside, you can't see clearly enough to have anything substantial to say. And if you're too outside, you're just a cynic throwing rocks with no skin in the game. But if you're on the edge of the inside, then maybe you have something to say and you know how to say it. So all I'm trying to say today is I'm just trying to find some principles of that. How do you not lose your voice? As they talk about this stuff, like if you just skim the prophets, they're talking about the stuff that we want to be talking about right now. Like religious hypocrisy, political exploitation, economic injustice, arrogance, care for the other, hope for societal renewal. Like this is all the stuff we want to be talking about. They're doing it from the edge of the inside. But how do you do it without losing your voice? How do you do it without ringing the bell too loudly? These are the questions. So I just have a handful of quick principles I'm trying to hold to. I'm not saying I've nailed, because again, I'm trying to say like this is the stuff that's kicking me down pretty hardcore right now. So if someone has Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 1, you want to read that, and then someone else read chapter 8 of Jeremiah 21 to 22 for me. Okay. 9:1, yeah.
Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes found the tears, that I not weep for the men, for the slain of the daughter of my people.
And someone 8:21 to 22.
The wound of the daughter of my people is my heart wounded. I mourn and dismay has taken hold of me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then is the health of the daughter of my people not been restored?
You could do this with all the prophets. Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet, but there's plenty more to do. This first idea is from Rohr himself. It's the title of the book, but it's been so convicting for me that I've just been holding on to it. But the first point from Rohr is that we need to find the tears. Prophets were raging, they were angry, they were frustrated, but they always end up in tears somehow. What he says is basically true prophets are not critics, They're not merely critics or just angry agitators. They're deeply compassionate people who are grieving the brokenness that they're naming. So they are raging against the machine. They're calling out injustice, idolatry, corruption, cruelty, all that. But if they are true prophets, the anger is not fueled by bitterness, it's fueled by tears. So that's the difference between a prophet and a cynic, is sorrow. The prophet is not speaking from superiority, they're speaking from heartbreak. They're not trying to win arguments, they're trying to heal people. They're not trying to just say what's wrong with the world, they're feeling something deep in their bones. So tears are the main difference, or it's the main thing for what a prophet is. So we should try to give ourselves to letting our truths be anchored in the tears, let our truths be anchored in the compassion. Jesus himself, Matthew 9, says when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. And that phrase, had compassion, is over and over again in the New Testament about Jesus. Like it means his gut ached. He wasn't just observing suffering, but he's feeling the suffering. And that's how I think a reason that people identify with Jesus was he wasn't just on the outside, he was feeling it. So wherever we are on these matters of cultural issues on the political spectrum, before we make it to the tears, I think we should be silent. That's what I'm telling myself, is if I haven't made it to the tears yet, then I haven't gone far enough. That hasn't been the case in my life. So I'm trying my best to tell myself that I haven't made it far enough. Beneath the anger and beneath the speaking out and the desire and all that stuff, I think is actually tears. But you have to keep going until you make it there, because I think it changes your posture. That's number one. Number two is to take a pause. Take a pause to recalibrate, to consider, rethink how others are hearing me. That's something I've been really trying to think about lately. It's like just before you do anything, before you say anything, before you post anything, try to consider like how are others catching me? And is that what I'm trying to hold on to? Even when you feel the urge to say something bold, even if it's true, like asking myself, does this help move the needle? Is this helping the relationship, or am I just trying to prove a point, hoping that person sees it? Because that's how I feel most of the time. If it is both, if you are trying to move the needle and it will improve the relationship and it's making the point, then contemplate it again and again and again, and then maybe say it. But if it's only trying to prove the point, like trying to be objectively honest with yourself, then probably don't. Jesus in Luke 5, it says he often withdrew to lonely places to pray. So even if the crowd wanted more of him, the objective goodness and truth and ministry was there for him. He still drew himself away to recalibrate. I think he didn't feed on visibility. I don't think he was like thirsting for the conspiracy, something to jump on and say his thoughts on, He wasn't addicted to everybody hearing his thoughts on stuff. But I think the silence was shaping him, and it should shape us. Number 3, make the shift, continual shift from certainty to curiosity. We've talked about this for years, but I'm trying to keep telling myself it. I think humility can restore a lot if we're really giving ourselves to it. Let others see that you're not seeing yourself as the sole arbiter of truth, like you're trying to still learn. So instead of just giving yourself to blunt, bold, dualistic statements like those people are wrong, like trying to be overly, primarily inquisitive about how others arrive at their opinions, I think being that kind of way would probably open up more doors than we think, and also open up the doors that we've possibly slammed shut by the attempts of being right. Again, I'm talking to myself here. You guys know this. Jesus in the Gospels, at least Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it's recorded for us. He asks over 300 questions and rarely answers any of them whenever people are asking him questions. He's always the one who's asking the questions. He doesn't seem like he was very interested in like winning debates or being the one who is right. In Mark 8, he even asks his disciples, who you guys say that I am? He could have just given theology, but he chooses to not. He just lets them wrestle with it. So the good thing is that questions slow the conversation down, and it invites conversation, it invites trust. Number 4 is to say less, focus on making our few words ring deeper. My tendency is to always think I've been too honest. This is like my unhealthy spin, is whenever I start spiraling, I feel like I'm just being too honest and I just need to shut down. It's not honesty that's the problem. It's just sometimes it's premature, unfiltered, unasked for, blunt, being harsh. Sometimes we don't need to confuse being honest with being harsh. It doesn't make what you're saying or believing untrue. It just may have been not the right place at the right time. Too sharp, too soon, all that stuff. So let's not produce noise and forget nuance. Jesus in John 8, you guys know the story where they dragged the woman caught in adultery out, and he doesn't say anything. And one time he does speak, is he's drawn into sand. He comes up and he says, "Let the one without sin be the first to cast a stone." He had few words, and it's perfectly timed, and they all leave. Anyways, Jesus was an expert in that, and saying few words when it's needed, necessary. Number five, hold the tension. And the tension, I would say, is critiquing fairly and blessing freely, doing both, cursing and the blessing. Aristotle apparently said this. I don't think it's necessarily true, but it's beautiful. He said, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." It's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So if you're only critiquing one side and it's the other side, I think we will lose our credibility. People, I think, we can feel imbalance. So if we're overly one-sided, I think we start to lose our trustworthiness, actually. So if we can do both, to bless and curse. And Jesus does this. Matthew 23, he says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees," like his own people. Like he was like putting the crosshairs on Jerusalem, the whole time. He's critiquing, but then also later on in Matthew 23, he says that, we talked about it, where he says, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who sent to you, how often I'd long to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks." So he has this like blessing and the curse of the whole time. He's doing both at the same time. I'm trying to go through these quick because I have 9 points. But number 6 is realize that not everyone cares. This is my favorite one. You guys know me. I like philosophy, I like religion as a sociological phenomenon, I like the Bible as a text. But guess what? Not everybody cares. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's interested. I'm obsessed with Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo right now. I'm like going through a lot on them, and it's been awesome. I'm like, no, I'm not clarifying. It's either Leonardo, the artist, or the Ninja Turtle. But I'm compelled by the creativity, the ethic, the worldview. But again, not everybody cares. Last night I was like 15 minutes in on this thing I was reading on my phone about the architecture of Paris. Like in the 1800s, they like reamped the whole thing. Crazy. Not a good talking point for a party. You know what I'm saying?
I was kind of intrigued. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's actually very intriguing, and how they laid it out and why they did it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. See, there you go.
It's like Sheldon and Big Bang. Fun fact. It's only fun for you.
That's right. So not everybody cares. What I'm trying to tell myself is passion and interest that you bring to something is not faulting someone else if they don't naturally and intrinsically do too. I'm not trying to say there's matters of truth that people may not care about. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say if they're not bringing the same kind of passion and intrinsic interest to something as you are, like that's okay. And so there's lots of things I think fall under that umbrella for myself. So I'm trying to tell myself that. Number 7, less posting, more engaging. I'm not trying to sound contradictory to the other points about being silent and holding my tongue, but just to make the point is if we step off the ideology, the TikTok, the reel, the tweet-sized ideology train, and we'll do some sound bites at people, and we jump aboard like the long conversation train, I actually think there's a lot of movement that would help us. Like there's a growing number of people who are preferring podcasts that are like 2 hours long rather than like 30 minutes long. Because you can only get so much in a tweet. Like if you're posting a TikTok that's like raging against the machine, that works. But also works is like a 2-hour conversation with someone who disagrees with you. And by work, I mean, you have to adjust that definition, but you guys know what I'm saying. The model method of post, react, debate is like the culture right now. Like that is what is working in the culture right now, and it's killing us. And it never changes people's minds, But like real engagement with real people in real time in real places with tea or something over dinner, like that's where people could change. I'm not saying they will change. Like that feels like the most honest form of change that would happen if it actually did. So next time a big topic comes up, like don't post about it. Like just talk to someone about it. And that's obviously more complex than it seems, but there's that. All I'm trying to say is, did I say 9? I only have 7. So there you go. All I'm trying to say is Jesus was the quintessential prophet. I mean that like he wasn't telling the future, like he was in this embodiment, in this zone. His voice was never just loud for the sake of being loud. He spoke with clarity, conviction, compassion. He had authority for sure, but he wasn't trying to be forceful. Came out with not with necessarily with volume, but with depth. Even when he's flipping tables, is very purposeful. He like made a whip. You know how long it takes to make a whip? Like it wasn't just like hanging out with him. You know, it was it was contemplative. He knew when to speak, when to stay silent. He asked more questions, and then he gave answers. Never weaponized truth. He spoke hard words, few words, all that. So, at the risk of sounding super spiritual and religious again, what if we just follow Jesus and his methods and his and see what happens? You know, and end, and then I promise I'm done. This is very personal for me. This is where I've been lately. I feel like this is where I've been. I feel like I've lost a little bit of my I've lost my voice to an extent, and it's all just stuff I'm trying to be contemplative about. I'm still doing this. I'm still writing stuff and offering thoughts when they come, but the way I speak and when I speak and how I'm speaking, I've noticed a shift in my heart, and I'm trying my best to backpedal some of that. I still think I'm right about things, which is an issue, but I think I've often unintentionally and maybe sometimes intentionally offered those things in ways that make it seem more certain and less wiggle room than maybe I intend or maybe I do intend, you know. I believe in them. I still do. But there's a difference between just being right and being wise and being heard. And this is where I've been lately, is like, what's it mean to be heard? And I mean that in an objective sense. I don't know if I think I've swung a lot and I've come out with some boxing gloves a lot, and I'm not being heard. And I'm not saying that about you guys. I'm saying about people in my life. You know what I'm saying? Gandhi's famous for saying, speak only if it improves the silence. And there's lots of times I think I've spoken and it's not improving anything. You know what I'm saying? You're just like casting more fuel into the fire and it's not working. So these are the things I'm trying to hold myself to. I'm trying to change. I'm attempting to change. I'm trying to ask better questions. I'm trying to speak less, even though I've been talking for a long time. I'm trying to speak in ways that ask that invite rather than trigger defense. I can't find the origin of this quote, but you guys probably know it. But you can tell whether a man is clever by his answers. You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers. You can tell whether a man is wise by his questions. So I'm trying to be there. So there's people that I've probably hurt and steamrolled and felt unheard. And I'm trying to own that. I think there's lots of sharp edges that I've come out with. I'm trying to own those things. There's people I think I've made, I've put them in places that they felt like they need to remain silent around me. And I'm owning it and trying to own all that. But I also think this is like the world of being a Christian too, at large. It's like we've done that to other people for a long time. So like we should own the collective sin of Christians, you know? So if we try so hard to be understood and to be right, I think we stop listening to people. When we stop listening, I think we stop earning. We don't have the right to actually have our voice, you know, sometimes anymore. So I don't want to ring the bell too loudly, you know? Don't want it to be an invitation. Be like the bird who's like just singing quietly, you know? It's like the calm, the quiet, intentional, invitational, inquisitive nature. Because like the point's not just to be right. The point is like to be heard. Because if you are right and you're unheard, like nothing's gonna necessarily change. So just quickly, I'm trying to shift from certainty to curiosity. I'm trying to let my words be fewer. Trying not to confuse honesty with harshness. Trying to be a voice that creates space, not just fills it. I think these things are worthwhile. So as we talk in the future, these are the principles I'm trying to live by in the workplace. To quote Michael Scott, you know. What's he say with is it Abraham Lincoln? He's like, if you're racist, I'll attack you with the North. He's like, these are the principles I live by in the workplace, or something like that. These are the principles I'm living by.
Said that?
Huh?
What?
No, he didn't actually say that, but Michael Scott said
You're
that.
like, that's done right.
I think that's these are the principles. It's either that or it's a diversity episode, which is also hilarious. You haven't seen them?
Funny, though. What?
Oh my god!
What are we doing over there?
Why aren't we watching it now?
Just
What
say,
am I
once
watching
upon
right
once upon
now?
a time,
Yeah,
there was an office.
yeah,
where it was
Every
always-
Sunday.
My brother doesn't love it. Yeah. No, I mean, I get it.
But I love Big Bang Theory, like, but The Office is too dry for me.
Come on.
Yeah, I've never liked that kind of like funny documentary, shaky documentary, kind of like stupid humor. Not
All right.
stupid like in an insulting way, but you know, I
Sure.
I got the category.
This is what he says. It says Abraham Lincoln once said that if you're a racist, I will attack you with the North. And these are the principles I carry with me in the workplace. He puts his leg up on the. It's so bad.
Yeah, so I probably would, but I probably do watch
There's
it with
definitely
somebody
some
who
good
likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good ones in like season 1 and 2, and then season 3 it gets really good.
There's some that like are really, really good.
It's so
Yeah,
funny.
I watch a lot of intense stuff, though. But that's not true. But lately, we've watched Big Bang Theory. And Young Sheldon. I love Young Sheldon so much.
I've not watched it. I've watched like a couple clips.
Oh, it's so good.
I've heard it's good.
I don't have anything else. I was just gonna see. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions?
I had a thought from like this week. I really wanted to like hear from people on my Facebook like about the bill, but I didn't know how to like write a status that didn't show my hand of like that I was real suspicious of it.
Yeah.
And so then I posted asking for people's opinion basically on how it would affect the least abused, basically without saying that. And then I found it pretty helpful, like when people contributed, whether I agreed with them or not. Some people I just responded like, "Thanks for contributing," and no matter which
Nice.
one, I was like, "Oh, they liked everything," even if they were conflicting. Which then you have to be like, "Oh, they're just like thanking them for speaking," rather than critiquing immediately what they had to say. So I think that's helped me, like that little experiment. I got some really interesting responses. I got some very short, one-sided responses, and then I got longer, slightly more nuanced. And sometimes people surprise me with some nuance, and other people just confirm that there is no nuance.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, but I just liked everything. Thanked people for commenting. Didn't show too much of my hand, and got some really good information. So I tried to keep like the mindset of whether or not they deserved it, because maybe they were being a little inflammatory or know-it-all, and I can't tell that over a comment anyway. I just had like an attitude of whether they had the right attitude or not. Like, thank you for what you had to say. And I think if we started there, like people, even the know-it-alls, thank them for their willingness. They kind of, you can probably imagine that for a lot of people that shocks them, and they're like, "Oh, you're welcome." You know, it
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
makes you feel good, and then defensiveness can't really
Yeah.
exist alongside of feeling flattered. So that might be a good
That's
approach if you can bring yourself to. But I didn't feel triggered by the issue, so that was helpful. I just felt like I want to hear what people have to say.
Yeah.
'Cause I really couldn't understand. I'm friends with a lot of evangelicals, so I was like really interested to see how people would respond or justify some of the stuff in the bill, and then it was actually more intelligent
Sure.
than you can, than you assume. If you don't ask anybody, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Once you hear from real people, including one guy who's very intelligent in politics, then you actually start to get some interesting answers.
That's
A couple
good.
people were just like, it won't help them at all. If you're a Christian and support this, like you don't really love Jesus. I'm like, okay, thank you, my dear friend who I love. I don't
That's
think
right.
that's super helpful, but
No, that's good.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's-
it was interesting. I thought that was kind of fun, and people were very civil.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that too.
That's good.
And somebody admitted like that they were wrong about something on there too.
Yeah, it's big moves
He
right
was in
there.
support of it for the most part, and then somebody else said, but I researched this, blah, blah, blah. He goes, oh, you may be right. You have more experience in this area than I do. And then continued with his part. So it was nice to see the better side of
Yeah.
the real people that I know. So
That's good. Yeah, it's like it's hard to believe that. It's hard to believe it, but I'm trying to tell myself if there's overwhelming support for something, I can't assume that all those people are horrific, awful people and just want the worst for everybody. You know, there has to be something that's speaking to them.
yeah.
And so I'm trying to, like even me and Taylor talking about the bill, even this morning, we're watching a video on it, and it's like there's no way you can support this thing, but lots of people do. So it's like how, and why, and what is it in them that's speaking? What is it that's speaking to them? There has to be something. And if you can try to find some of that basis, then I think that there's some worthwhile conversations to have rather than just like swinging and, taking out the boxing gloves.
Yeah, and everyone feels incredulous about someone else's belief.
Yeah.
At some point, and I have to remember that, like, Becca 10 years ago would be totally confronted by Becca now. So
Sure.
it's like, how can I judge somebody else when I would judge myself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just, people are complex and yeah, and so there's a reason, and like you said, it doesn't make them awful people, which is what my friend said, which I love him very much, but he's very hot-headed. So I was like, even if you think that's true, or could prove that, people don't actually love Jesus, they support the bill. I'm like, you're not.
This is not good. Not moving the needle.
Yeah, not moving in the But I understand feeling that way. That's a real feeling. To be just confused and how this is so
Yeah.
So,
I feel like sometimes it's hard to enter into conversations with people because we've set up our culture in a very online situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I go to work every day, but you're busy. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes having those spaces to sit and talk to somebody for 2 hours, they're very hard to find these days. And like we're so interrupted by technology. I've become a little old person about it sometimes, like put your phone down.
Sure.
But then I can turn up. So I don't know. Like that's one of those things that I struggle with. But just trying to like pray, and if God brings conversation, He brings it, and to be in a space where I listen to people and not just talk to them.
Yeah.
It's hard. I think it's just we've created a culture where we just that's our primary. Like the phone is primary, and then conversations are secondary.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're also it feels like we're losing the ability to have
Conversations.
conversations. Like how do you even do that?
It's
You know?
terrifying.
Yeah, there's a podcast I'm listening to right now, and it's about it's about love and romance and our culture today. And I'm not that far in, but that's what they're talking about. It's like a couple hundred years ago, you had to write someone a letter, and it took time. Now you can just like get a dating app, and it's like we've traded convenience or they were talking about art too, but it's like convenience for beauty for convenience.
yeah, I was thinking about how like I was reading, my nieces were asking me to read just because they were like new books, they were for school, but it was about like the Declaration of Independence and other stuff. And it was so like, it was like kind of dry. It was written for kids. I was like, this is what you guys want to read? They're like, yeah. And they're like into George Washington right now for
Nice.
some reason. So I was reading it to them, and I was like thinking about how people had to wait for a copy of the Declaration to get to their town, and then everybody would go out like together and hear it. There was no instant everyone seeing it separately. It was very communal. And so then you'd be listening to the words, I imagine, and then you're in a huge group that's like all talking to each other. You might have a question about something that was said, or like that would have just been like the normal then.
Like the Bible and Nehemiah when they all read it out.
Yeah,
loud
exactly.
together.
Like
Yeah,
we
true.
forget that there's just like there was no dissemination that goes that fast as
Yeah.
it is now. So that would have created a completely different thing. And I wonder, I mean, I know that things have been divided like forever. It's not a new 21st century thing to be divided, but
There's a book called The Anxious Generation that talks about.
Jonathan Haidt.
Have you ever read
No, but I just know a lot from the book from listening to him on
it? It is
podcasts.
worth everybody reading. Just, I mean, it talks about their generation, but mostly like what we've done with technology and how we don't have conversations and how anxious that makes us.
I read his Righteous Mind. I think Rebecca suggested. Yeah, it was incredible. Rebecca suggested it to me, and it was really good. Yeah, he talks all about this, like because the subtitle is "Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion." And he basically just argues that, like, if you just loosely say conservatives and liberals, they're divided by a basis of foundational morality. And so, like, he talks about whenever someone says something politically driven, it'll speak to 6 foundations in the Republican side, conservative side, and only 4 in the liberal side. And so even if you're not strictly conservative Republican, it's channeling a moral center inside of you. And so anyways, it was really interesting. So that's why I like this whole, like, let's get to a foundational sense. If we just ask about the bill, people are going to start fighting about it. But if you try to get to some basis of like, what is it speaking to you? There's probably some like foundational moral center that we probably agree on. and we just need to find it, you know. Anything you guys would add? I said 9 principles, I only had 7. But should we get 9? 7's the perfect number, I guess. I'd like to build a system of principles. Let's come up with a code, a Mosaic code, like a pirate code, you know, just stuff we're going to hold each other to, you know. If you guys come across anything and you want to help make a code, let me know and add to it.
Listen well and don't assume you're right.
Isn't that already part of the like 1 sentence?
Our Mosaic one-liner,
What is it?
something about faith and open mind and open heart.
Yeah.
Boy, we're really good at this, aren't we?
Every Sunday needs to be said.
That's right.
What is it?
We really have to get it on talking about it. That's what we'll do it.
Yeah.
Something about yeah. I'll figure it
Like
out.
if you can't say it, we're all in trouble.
We're due.
I just remember the open heart, open mind thing.
And then all
I just don't remember the first. I just don't remember the first line of it. Open heart, open mind, engaging faith, rethink. No, I don't know. Something like that.
I wanted to start like a discussion group for a long time. This is kind of similar, but I don't know how to. I would need somebody really intelligent to help me do it because you would need to keep like pot stirs out and
Sure.
have a format that would lend itself to. And I think there's already something like that out there. I can't remember what it's called. It was started by Mosaic type people.
Yeah.
And you can like get affiliated with them and start a chapter in your area. I'll have to find out what
That's
it's
cool.
called. But it's made like you set up it could be monthly or bi-weekly or something, and you like let everyone know what the topic's going to be that next time. And then there's certain rules that you go by, like a code basically, so that it stays very civil and loving.
Do you invite like people, like public?
Huh?
Can anybody come?
Yeah, and that's what that's
So,
what
like, have
I
you seen this
want
lab-
it to be just anybody, not just Christian adjacent people.
Like I know there's libraries in Europe that do like just conversation, like they
Yeah.
set aside time for.
Yeah, I think it could be cool. It could be done well,
That would be cool.
but I just don't know how to do it well.
Sure.
The
Well, we can-
library would probably be a good setting for that because it's neutral and they're all about building community.
Sure. Let's just let the next little bit of Mosaic be some guinea pig stuff. You know, we'll just see what happens, see what works. Anything else? We're building this in real time, so however it works, we'll see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it's Andy's fault. We'll do it again next week, and I'll send out everything about that soon. That's all I got. Cheers.